Hello everybody, my name is RetroBoy03, and welcome to my video review of the Tomy Sonic the Hedgehog 8-inch Chao plush. This plush has released recently in 2018. It costs $15, and while it's appeared at a multitude of stores, the three most notable ones seem to be Newberry Comics, where some people have found a few plushes, FYE, where some people have found a few plushes, but the main place to look for these guys is at Target. Because, as far as I can tell, pretty much every Target store, at least in my area, and in every other area I know people in anyway, basically every Target has a box of this new wave of plushes. So, yeah, they might not be on shelves yet. You might have to ask an employee to get them from the back, but anyway, enough about availability, let's just talk about this guy. First thing you might have noticed, he's standing on his own, which is pretty awesome. I mean, how often do you see a plush that can just stand up? So that's pretty cool by itself. But then another thing that's cool is just how cute this guy looks. He just fell over, so I'll just lean him against the wall. It is a bit easier. It is a bit finicky to get him to stand, let me mention, since obviously his feet are very round. But it can work if you give it a minute. If you just put a bit of effort into it, he can stand, although I would honestly just recommend leaning him up against a wall. It's just a bit easier. But anyway, as you can tell, this guy is pretty simple compared to a lot of Tomy's other plushes, but seeing as how this is a Chao, that makes sense. Chao are very simple. His face, though, Tomy spared no expense on his face, if I can speak today. His eyes are very big, very well shaped, and everything there is embroidery. I was honestly expecting Tomy to put just like a blue overlay inside of the embroidered white eye lines. This really surprised me, or just like sewn a different fabric here, so seeing all that embroidery, that really surprised me. That's really great. And obviously, it's shiny, and it just looks great. It really makes this guy seem alive. His mouth is also well embroidered. It's just sort of the standard V shape, but it's nice. I'm not a huge fan of the big seam running down his head, but honestly, there's no real way Tomy could have avoided that, and this guy still looks great despite that. Though the yellow puffball on his head, while there isn't any sort of gradient leading up to it, I'm fine that there's no gradient. It just directly transitions from the blue to the yellow, because this is a little $15 plush. I'm not expecting the quality of, say, the Sega Prize Sonic Adventure Chao plush. This is just a cute little Tomy guy. But yeah, I'm a big fan of how the ball is not floating and they just attached it to the head, so they didn't try to do anything stupid with, like, clear plastic like they did on the SA2 Hero Chao plush. Obviously, Sega did that, not Tomy. This is Tomy's first Chao, but yeah. You can see the yellow spots on his arms and legs, or I guess maybe his hands and his toes, paws. I don't know what you would call them. Not too sure about Chao anatomy, but anyway, those look nice. Again, no gradient, but it's fine, and honestly, I think it might even look a bit better for it. Since I've never been a huge fan of the gradient effect on Chao. I mean, like, I thought it was cool at some points, but I feel as though at a few points in the color it can honestly look a bit gross, so I'm perfectly fine with this. One last thing I should mention is this guy's pose. At first you might think he doesn't have any, but that's actually not true. It's just that the pose doesn't work very well. Basically, you have this arm over here, which is supposed to be raised up. However, since the connection there is kind of loose to have it standing up, it just sort of falls down and gives him the illusion that it's not even in a pose. It just sort of looks like he's just a normal unposed Chao, which honestly I'm fine with, and also maybe a part of that is that the tag is attached to that arm. But anyway, so, yeah, the pose doesn't really work, but honestly, I don't mind, since the pose is so simple that I don't really care that it doesn't work. Turning him around to the back, you can see his tail is just a simple blue ball, but his wings are, to be honest, the one thing about this plush I'm not too sure about. They're nicely cut, and they're of a nice pink fabric, but they sort of get it, but his tail and arms can sort of get in the way of them and just sort of knock them out of place. So I wish maybe Tomy had done something with them. Maybe they could have been a bit stiffer. Maybe they could have done with like a stiffer felt, like how they did the more recent collector series Tails as Bangs. I don't know. I think that material would have worked better than this, but these are still fine. I mean, I could complain that they're not shiny, which they should be, but I'm not. They're very well cut, and they just look nice. So, yeah, that's pretty much it for the plush itself. It does have the standard clear hook that Tomy has on all of their plushes. And by the way, again, very glad that Tomy didn't, like, attach the puffball onto this plastic string, because that would have looked god-awful. But anyway, the tag on this guy is probably my least favorite part of him, because it has the Sonic logo, and then a picture of a Chao, and what render is that from? I mean, I don't think, like, just normal neutral Chao have appeared in a game since Sonic Heroes. I mean, I think there was, like, one Chao-based mission in Generations. Is this the Generations model from that one mission? I don't think so. I don't even remember if there were models in that stage. I think that was a classic Sonic stage. There might have just been, just 2D renders, or, well, 2D renders. I don't know what I'm saying here. Anyway, all I know is I'm not sure where that Chao picture came from, but not a fan of it, to be honest. It looks pretty cheap, especially compared to all the other great renders we have on tags. Like, for example, compare this Chao art to this Sonic art, and you can instantly see the drop in quality here. Now, luckily, this is pretty much the only tag to have a problem like this, but it's a bit unfortunate that pretty much my favorite plush Tomy's made so far is the one that has by far the worst tag, and well, I just mentioned, this is my favorite Tomy plush they've made so far. I mean, he's just adorable. Look at him. He's very simple, but he's very nice. He's also quite big when you think about it in terms of Chao. Like, most of our characters, again, just bringing in Sonic, are just 8-inch tall, very small replicas. But Chao are very small, so an 8-inch tall Chao is actually really big in comparison. Like, again, these guys are the same height, and while that makes no sense in scaling, I'm honestly glad that they did it like this, because, you know, it's just cute. Also, if you have Sonic sitting down, the Chao literally towers over him, which is pretty great. But yeah, so obviously, 8-inch Sonic and 8-inch Chao don't really work together that well. However, the magic behind this plush is not only is it amazing, but it also kind of makes me want to buy some other Tomy plushes, like, which is something none of the others have done before. Like, for example, this makes me really want to get their 12-inch Sonic, because I've seen people who have him, and he is much closer in scale with this Chao. I mean, the Chao is still too big for him. Really like Chao, or maybe like half the height of your character in Adventure. Maybe even a bit less than half, so really 12 inches and 8 inches is still definitely not the perfect ratio, but it's better, so yeah. I mean, I'm not sure if I'll get this. I mean, I might just stick with having this comparison. I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world. I mean, I much prefer having an extremely big and out-of-scale adorable Chao than I do having, you know, Noodle Limbs Metal Sonic. But anyway, yeah. Also, later this year, Tomy is going to be releasing a 12-inch plush of Dark Chao, which is cool for a lot of reasons. Number one, it's another Tomy Chao. Number two, it's 12 inches. Number three, since it's 12 inches, it'll be roughly in scale with the really old Sonic Adventure 1, SA2, and the Sonic X plush sets by Sega Prize from all the way back in the early aughts. And while I don't have any of those guys, it will be cool for those sets because, number 4, Sega and no company has ever made a Dark Chao plush before Tomy. Tomy's Dark Chao will be the very first plush of Dark Chao. And I'm pretty sure that with some of Tomy's selections, they know this, because, like, just going into this, like, for example, some of the plushies Tomy's releasing this year include Classic Super Sonic, who hasn't had a single plush of him in over 20 years. Chao, who doesn't get a lot of representation in merchandise because the last game to feature Chao came out over a decade ago. Vector doesn't get any merchandise because, well, he's Vector. And also, he hasn't been in a game since Shadow the Hedgehog, so, yeah. I mean, Modern Eggman, despite being the main villain, there isn't a lot of merchandise of Modern Eggman, so it's very nice to see him and Tomy doing him. I mean, we're getting Silver. We're getting a new 8-inch Silver. The only other 8-inch Silver plush was the Jazzwares Silver. I mean, for the 12-inch guys, we're getting Super Sonic, normal Super Sonic, who, granted, is not as cool as classic Super Sonic, nor as demanded, but still. And then we're getting Dark Chao, who has never appeared before ever, despite there being a Hero Chao plush. So, yeah. This is pretty great. This plush is pretty great. That plush looks pretty great. This whole line is pretty great, with the possible exception of Shadow. He just looks a bit boring to me. I'm probably not going to pick him up. Also, that weird Sonic Forces-based Tails. Also, the new variant of Sonic. Let me rephrase that. Most of these guys are great. This guy is amazing. My personal favorite Tomy plush they've made so far. Not just for Sonic, but for literally anything. This is just my favorite plush the company Tomy has ever turned out. This plushie is just, it's so good, it's cute, it's well-stuffed, just everything. It's so high quality. Also, it's fluffy. Maybe not as fluffy as these guys for some reason. For some reason, Wave 3 plushies aren't as fluffy as ones from the first two waves, but they're still pretty good. But anyway, thank you all so much for watching this review, and I will see all of you in the next one. Bye-bye.